What is up, Patriots? This is John O'Connor, and you are listening to O'Connor's Quick Strike, your rapid-fire breakdown of the top 3 stories the mainstream media either won't tell you about or won't tell you the truth about. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and or follow. It is free and would mean the world to me. Also, don't forget to check out O'Connor's Right Stand podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is Monday, October 6, 2025, and I've got a weekend's worth of absolute insanity to unpack. Sorry about Friday, but I got too tied up in packing and planning the vacation I just got back from. It was long, but a good weekend. I must have driven close to 1,000 miles in just 4 days. Let me tell you what, as this is my first time really getting into the weeds of house hunting, it starts very exciting and gets old very, very fast. I come back, unpack the car, sit down, and for no more than 20 minutes and my phone starts lighting up with calls from work. I can never seem to get a break just to breathe a little bit. But anyways, that's enough about my vacation. You are here for the news. Buckle up. This is the conservative analysis the mainstream media is desperate to bury. Let's get into it. 3. First up, and this story broke late Friday, so you may have missed it. I need to talk about Jay Jones, the Democrat nominee for Attorney General in Virginia. Not just any position. This is the chief law enforcement officer of the Commonwealth. And this guy spent his weekend getting absolutely destroyed after text messages from 2022 surfaced showing him fantasizing about murdering a Republican colleague. The National Review published text messages between Jones, who was a former delegate at the time, and Republican delegate Kerry Coyner. They were talking about the death of a former Democratic lawmaker, and Jones was furious that then Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert had the audacity to say something nice about a deceased colleague from across the aisle. So, Jones texts Coyner this gem, and I quote, 3 people, 2 bullets, Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Let that sink in. He's comparing the Republican House Speaker to Hitler and Pol Pot, 2 of history's worst mass murderers. I know you know who Hitler is, but Pol Pot, if you don't know, is the Cambodian dictator from 1975 through 1979, who was responsible for millions of deaths through forced labor and executions. But this all gets worse. Jones continues. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Then, just to make sure everyone understands his little murder fantasy, and I quote all this, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know and he receives both bullets every time. Now, Kerry Coyner, God bless her, is sitting there reading this thinking, what the hell is wrong with this guy? She texts back, Jay, please stop. You know what Jones says? LOL. Okay. LOL. He's joking about executing a colleague, and when told to stop, he responds with LOL? But wait, there's more. According to the National Review's reporting, Jones didn't stop there. He told Coyner that Gilbert and his wife are breeding little fascists, referring to their children, and said he hoped those children would die in their mother's arms. This man, who wants to be Virginia's Attorney General, wished death upon children of a political opponent. This is beyond disqualifying. This is sociopathic. This story broke on Friday. By Sunday, President Trump called for Jones to drop out immediately. Even Democrat gubernatorial candidate Abigail Spanberger, his own running mate, condemned the comments. But Jones isn't dropping out. Instead, he put out one of those non-apology apologies where he takes full responsibility while also blaming his Republican opponent for ratcheting up violent rhetoric. Let me get this right. The guy who fantasized about shooting someone in the head is now the victim? And this matters right now because early voting is already underway in Virginia. People are casting ballots for a man who thinks political violence is funny. Think about the context here. We are 3 weeks removed from the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We've seen a massive spike in political violence from the left. And the Democrat Party of Virginia is standing behind a candidate who openly fantasized about executing a Republican lawmaker and watching his children die. This is the party that lectures us about dangerous rhetoric. This is the party that blamed Trump for every act of violence for 4 years. And now, they are running a guy who casually jokes about putting 2 bullets to the head of someone who dared to say something nice about a deceased Democrat. The hypocrisy is stunning. But what's more stunning is that he's still in the race. The Virginia Democratic Party hasn't pulled their support. They are just hoping this blows over. Well, I really hope it won't. And Virginia voters need to remember this now. The Democrats want this guy to be their new chief law enforcement officer. The guy who thinks murder jokes are hilarious. If you haven't and live in Virginia, drag you and all your buddies to vote some conservatives into office, not only for this position, the Attorney General, but also governor, lieutenant governor, and all 100 seats in the House of Delegates. Get out and vote. We need you.
2.
All right. Story number 2 takes us across the pond to the United Kingdom, where we are witnessing societal suicide in real time. On October 2nd, that's last Thursday, a man in Manchester rammed his car into a group of Jews standing outside a synagogue. Then he jumped out of the vehicle and started stabbing people. Multiple people were killed in this attack. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is terrible, but what was the motive? Well, let me give you some clues. The attack happened on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. The attacker targeted Jews specifically outside a synagogue, and, oh yeah, his name is Jihad Al-Shamie, and he's a Syrian migrant. After his arrest, Jihad told police that he carried out the attack to make Jews, quote-unquote, cower. So, we've got a guy named Jihad from Syria who attacked Jews on Yom Kippur outside a synagogue, who explicitly told police he did it to terrorize Jews. What do you think the motive was? Now, take your time. Yep, this is a real head-scratcher. Well, according to Good Morning Britain, and I'm not making this up, they told viewers, and I quote, "We don't know his motive or religion." I'll say it again. A man named Jihad from Syria attacked Jews on their holiest day and told police he wanted to make them cower. And the British media says, gee, we just don't know what could have motivated this attack. This is where we are, folks. This is the level of denial we are dealing with in Western media. They would rather commit societal suicide than acknowledge Islamic terrorism. You literally cannot parody this. A guy whose first name means holy war attacks Jews on the holiest day of the Jewish year, and the media is baffled about the motive. This is the same pattern we've seen for decades. Every Islamic terror attack, the media ties itself in knots, avoiding the obvious. Remember Allah Akbar being called an Arabic phrase? Remember motives unclear after Fort Hood? The UK is particularly bad because they've essentially criminalized telling the truth about Islamic terrorism. You can get arrested for inciting hatred if you point out obvious facts. Meanwhile, actual terrorists are given excuses and understanding. And here's the thing. This denial makes everyone less safe. When you refuse to identify the problem, you can't solve it. When you pretend that a guy named Jihad attacking Jews is some great mystery, you can't implement policies to prevent the next attack. The British people aren't stupid. They can see a man named Jihad attacking a synagogue on Yom Kippur and connect the dots. But their media thinks they are too dumb to handle the truth. This is cultural suicide. This is a civilization that has lost the will to defend itself, and if we are not careful, this same disease will spread here. The difference is, we still have a president who's willing to call it what it is. We still have a majority of Americans who haven't completely lost their freaking minds. But the UK? They're done at this point. There's a way back, but right now they are done. They've chosen demographic replacement and cultural submission over common sense. And when their grandchildren ask how it all fell apart, they can point back to moments like this, when a guy named Jihad attacked Jews and the media said, "We may never know why." Pathetic.
1.
Finally, let's talk about the most revealing story of the weekend. And this one tells you everything you need to know about the modern Democrat Party. On Friday, President Trump announced that Israel had stopped bombing Gaza to allow for hostage negotiations. By Sunday, he's saying the first phase of a peace agreement should be completed this week. Technical teams are meeting today in Egypt to finalize details. This is potentially the end of a nearly 2-year war. This is potentially the return of hostages. You'd think people who claim to care about Palestinian lives would be celebrating, right? You'd think the people who'd been screaming genocide for 2 years would be thrilled. Well, you'd be wrong. CNN's Abby Phillip had a panel discussion about this, and she admitted, and I quote, "This is a major victory for him," referring to Trump. Her fellow panelist, Alencia Johnson, responded, and I quote, "It is challenging to actually hear that piece of Trump being potentially the one to get the ceasefire deal." Not all perfect English, but let me translate that for you. It makes me uncomfortable that Trump might bring peace because that I'd have to give him credit. Think about that. Thousands of people have died in this war. Hostages have been held for nearly 2 years. And this Democrat operative is publicly stating that her biggest concern isn't the war ending, it's that Trump might get credit for ending it. This is Trump derangement syndrome taken to its logical conclusion. These people would rather see the war continue, would rather see Palestinians die, would rather see Israeli hostages suffer, than admit that Trump succeeded where Biden failed. And it's not just one CNN panelist. For 2 years, Democrats accused Israel of genocide. They called for arms embargoes. They marched in the streets demanding a ceasefire. But now that peace is actually possible, now that Trump is about to accomplish what Biden couldn't, they aren't celebrating. No, they're sulking. Because it was never about Palestinian lives. It was always about politics. When Biden was in office, Democrats blamed Israel. They demanded a ceasefire, but they never delivered on one. Now, Trump comes in, and within months, he's got both sides talking. He's got Israel actually stopping the bombing. He's got Hamas at the negotiating table. And the first phase could be done this week. That's what actual leadership looks like. That's what peace through strength means in practice. You show up with overwhelming force. You make it clear there are consequences for terrorism. You give your enemies a choice. Make a deal or be destroyed. And when they realize you're serious, they will make the deal. Biden spent 2 years trying to pressure Israel while coddling Hamas. He sent money to Gaza. He called for restraint. And what did it get him? Nothing. The war continued. The hostages stayed captured. Trump shows up and says Hamas must move quickly or else all bets will be off. Time is of the essence and massive bloodshed will follow. And suddenly, Hamas is ready to talk. This is the difference between weakness and strength. This is the difference between hoping for peace and making peace happen. But Democrats can't admit that. They can't admit Trump's maximum pressure strategy works better than their strategic patience nonsense. So instead, they sit on CNN and complain that it's challenging to hear that Trump might succeed. You know what's actually challenging? Watching people who claim to care about human rights root against peace because it might make their political opponent look good. The mask is completely off now. We can see exactly what motivates these people, and it's not justice. It's not peace. It's hatred of Trump, pure and simple. They would rather see the world burn than see Trump succeed, and they are willing to admit it on national television now. So, there you have it, folks. Your quick strike breakdown of the weekend's biggest stories. I've got a Democrat Attorney General candidate in Virginia who thinks murder jokes are hilarious. And if you are in Virginia, get out and vote. please. I've got British media that can't figure out why a guy named Jihad attacked Jews. And I've got Democrats who are upset that Trump might actually bring peace to the Middle East. This is the world we are living in. This is what we are up against. The left has completely lost its mind. They are running violent extremists for office. They are denying basic reality about terrorism. And they are rooting against peace because it might benefit Trump. But here's the good news. People are waking up. The J. Jones story is exploding despite Democrat attempts to bury it. Brits are seeing through their media's gaslighting, and Americans are watching Trump deliver results while Democrats whine. The truth always comes out. Always. And the more they lie, the more they are exposed. Keep spreading the word. Keep holding them accountable. Keep demanding better from our leaders. This is O'Connor's Quick Strike. I'm John O'Connor. The mainstream media won't tell you these stories, but I will. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm bringing you the truth they are desperate to hide. Thanks for listening, Patriots. Now get out there and make some noise. I'll be back Wednesday with 3 more stories they don't want you to know about. Until then, stay informed, stay strong, and never stop fighting for the truth.